Niklsun here, and welcome to Coming Soon Movie News with Niklsun. This is a show where every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday we'll be going over all of the day's movie news and going over what it means for the production in general, such as casting decisions, trailer announcements, director announcements, things like that. So, without any further ado, let's get started with today's Hot Topics. And the first topic I want to talk about today is there's actually been the first photo released, unofficially of course, it's a snapshot from somebody's cell phone, of Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne. Now, a lot of people would take this as face value as saying, listen, it's just Bruce Wayne, like what's to get excited about? But there's little things that us fanboys like to pick apart, and one of the big things that I noticed from this picture, and a lot of people around the internet have noticed as well, are the little gray streaks in his hair. Now, to regular, everyday people out there who don't really care about all this kind of stuff, they would say, yeah, so what? He's got a little bit of gray in his hair. Ben Affleck's getting older. There's, all that kind of stuff. It makes sense. But this is the first time that we're actually going to see an older Batman. Christian Bale's Dark Knight Rises, let's just try to forget that one. But one thing that this leads to, especially with everything else we've been getting out of this, all the official teases from Warner Brothers and from DC, especially from Zack Snyder, have been very Dark Knight Returns centered. And with Ben Affleck having the gray hair, it just adds a little bit more fuel to that fire about how we are getting a borderline full-on adaptation of the Dark Knight Returns. I mean, I already talked about in the Batman v Superman teaser that was released at Comic-Con, he had the armored suit right out of Dark Knight Returns. When they first announced the movie, they gave that quote from the Dark Knight Returns about, want you to remember this, my hand around your throat, that line. And there's just been a lot of similarities to this being a Dark Knight Returns adaptation. Now, there's an even bigger rumor that's out there that Devin Faraci over at Badass Digest has put out. Now, apparently he either has seen the script or he has a lot of sources that are close to the production that are feeding him this information. And he's been very good to only give away information that he absolutely needs to or that he feels is necessary to give out, but he keeps stuff away so that everybody doesn't get completely spoiled, which I really have to commend him for that. But apparently in this film, Batman will have existed in this universe for well over 30 years. He will have been retired for some of that, but he would have existed for over 30 years. He is still kind of an urban legend, if you will. Again, this is all rumor. This is speculation mostly, but this is all rumor. We don't know if this is actually going to be in the film. But he is an urban legend. No one has ever actually been able to take a photograph of him. No one has actually seen him, so he's still an urban legend. People go, oh yeah, the Batman, sure. Like the Loch Ness Monster, anything like that, or Bigfoot. This kind of thing that some people believe in, but most of the people out there don't believe exists. Apparently, they also have a slight description of the Batcave, and then in the Batcave, there will be some sort of a memorial with a tattered Robin costume, showcasing that potentially Nightwing was originally going to be in this universe, or may eventually be in this universe, but showcasing that he did at one point have a sidekick, he did at one point have Robin. Whether or not it's a child, whether or not it's a teenager, whether or not it's a young adult, we still don't have any of that information, or even if this is real. But it's interesting to see the directions that they could go. And also in this picture, you see the destruction of Metropolis, and a lot of people have been assuming that that this is actually from Man of Steel, or this is from the events of Man of Steel. This is going to be the opening of the film, and it's going to be Bruce Wayne inspecting the damage of Wayne Financial in Metropolis, the complete and utter destruction of that, and that's actually the reason as to why he goes after him. He notices that he's a threat, that, Batman has been retired. He needs to bring him out of retirement. So then we cue up that teaser trailer. Batman says, okay, we got to take this guy down. He's this, looking at all the footage and everything they have from him. He's insanely strong. He's resistant to a lot of certain things. So he builds this armored suit, which is really thick armor, walks out where the bat signal is, then says, okay, I got to call this guy out. I got to take him down. So he pulls the tarp off, turns the bat signal on. Then you see the bat signal's on. He's standing there in the storm waiting for him. And then all of a sudden that lightning flash shows Superman inside the bat symbol. And then you just see Superman's eyes start to glow, and Batman's just standing there, and he's just got this pissed off look in his face, and his eyes are glowing. And then the title card comes up. So you know that there is going to be, to me it feels a little bit like the Avengers, but a much more serious tone, where these characters are going to be coming together and they're going to fight, and then they're going to realize that they're all on the same side. Like there's been hints that Wonder Woman's role will actually be larger than some people are assuming. That Aquaman will only be a cameo, that Cyborg may not even be in it, but Victor Stone will be mentioned, or at least be shown, because we know that they've cast him, but they haven't officially said whether or not Cyborg will be there. It's very curious and very interesting to see, because there's a lot of tidbits that people are really wanting to know about this film, and one of the issues is because they came out, and I think they announced this movie too early, because this movie is still almost 2 years away, and they're filming it, which means that there's going to be a long, drawn-out process for us getting information. Because usually when a movie is this heavily into production, it's coming out in 8 months, 10 months. This one's coming out in 20 months. So almost 2 full years away it's coming out. And it's going to take some people a little bit of time to adjust to that. I think what we need is we need a break from it. As much as it pains me to say that, we need a break from anything Batman v Superman. And we're probably going to get something like that as soon as they finish filming. Once they finish filming, unless the rumor is that they're going to siege right into Justice League, which I don't know. I hope they do that. It's financially, it makes sense. Makes sense in a creative standpoint as well, because you'll save money on a joint production. You'll have the actors invested in those characters for a prolonged period of time instead of going off and getting into another character and then coming back to it. You could theoretically do it and do it well. But yeah, I mean, this is all the stuff that we have so far on Batman v Superman, especially Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne. First off, the guy's like 7 feet tall. He's ridiculously tall, and he's bulked up. Like, Ben Affleck has gotten huge for this role. This is officially going to be the largest Batman that we've ever seen. He's going to be more in line to what we've gotten in the comics, which I'm very excited about. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section about what you feel. I know it's not a great shot of him. I'm waiting to get the official still. But what do you think of Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne? Just his physical appearance, the gray streaks. Do you think they should have gone more or less? Let me know in the comment section. And when we get more information about this topic, I'll definitely update you guys on here. All right, and so the next topic that we have to talk about is again dealing with Batman v Superman. This one is heavily filed under rumor, so take it with a grain of salt. But I did feel that with the information we've been getting out of this property, it makes sense. So apparently they've been doing tests, footage tests for Aquaman in water-based sets. Whether or not we're actually going to get Aquaman in the movie is still another question, still up for debate. I'm almost certain that we are, and I hope Jason Momoa gets the role. I've been championing this guy for a long time, ever since he was on Stargate. I loved him as Ronan on Stargate. And ever since then, he's done great roles. I mean, I even thought he was good for what the script allowed him to do in Conan. Again, it was more of a scripting issue, but that movie itself was not his fault. Same with Green Lantern. Green Lantern was not Ryan Reynolds' fault. It was the script and it was the directing. He did a very serviceable job, and I do find that Jason Momoa did the same thing with Conan. So I really do like him in the role of Aquaman. He's big. He's got the acting chops. He's got the charisma. He's got the fan base, especially because of Game of Thrones and what that did for him. So I definitely see him as that. But the rumored plot of this movie of his connection to the film. First off, it would most likely just be a cameo setting up again the events of Justice League, because this is a prelude to Justice League. But it would follow the events of the World Engine that happened at the end of Man of Steel, which Superman ended up destroying, spoiler alert, in the Indian Ocean. But the damage that caused to the water and to the ocean and the marine life that was in there would have most likely attracted the attention of Orin, or Aquaman. And if that's the case, that's a great way to start bringing these characters in, because one of the rumors is that Superman or Man of Steel would have been probably the only origin story that we're going to get out of these DC comics, or these DC cinematic universe, because they're going the exact opposite route of Avengers, or of Marvel, in that all of these characters have already existed for a while in this universe. With Superman coming out, and even Superman in Man of Steel, he had existed in that world for 30 years, for 25, 30 years. And with them not doing origin stories, which I think people are tired of. We don't need origin stories anymore unless it's like Guardians of the Galaxy. No one had been ever introduced to any of those characters, yet we got little hints and little tidbits, but we never got full-on origins for them. We don't need them. We got what we needed from the characters. We don't need an entire film figuring out why. Batman did it perfectly because we had never up until that point had an origin story on Batman, so they went back and did it. But they're not planning on doing one again. This is a veteran Batman we're getting in this film. So having Orin already having existed in this universe and having Cyborg might be an origin of sorts. But Green Lantern most likely won't. Green Lantern will probably come in. Flash will most likely come in. And I like this and touch on how they were created or how they got to where they were. But they don't necessarily need to. And I think that's the right way to go because it's something new. It's something that we haven't seen yet. If you watch any of the DC animated films, none of them are origin stories. So again, you can't use those as a cinematic film, as a live-action film, because they're just not strong enough. But you could take the basis of something like that and see that, listen, this could potentially work, and build a script around that, and then go from there. Don't write a script with it already being greenlit and directors and cast and all that stuff. No, write a treatment, see how it works. If that goes, then write a script. If the script goes, then start planning that film while also seeding into other properties and have a connective through line with all these properties. But you don't need to have necessarily an origin story. So I do hope that this ends up becoming true, that Aquaman is in the film, that we're not going to get an origin for him, because I don't think we need one. I think people are smart enough in this day and age that they can figure out on their own that this character is this, like, point A, point B, point C, and move on from it. We don't need everything kind of laid out all in front of us. So yeah, I'm excited for this. I've been excited for this film for a while, especially with Jason Momoa coming on board. Hopefully he locks down that contract and gets signed on quick, because this guy needs a big break, and he needs it now, because he is a phenomenal talent. And just watch even, I can't wait for Road to Paloma, his directorial debut. I really want to see that. But yeah, if we get more information about Aquaman or Batman v Superman, I'll definitely update you guys on here. All right, the next topic that we have to talk about is Taylor Kitsch. Right now, a lot of people look at him and they say, oh, that guy's a terrible actor because he's been in terrible movies. Wrong. Well, again, everybody's subject to their own opinion, absolutely. If you view that he is not a very good actor, that's fine. There are certain things that he has done which showcase that he is a good actor. First off, the movie wasn't that great, but he was really good in Savages, with the Oliver Stone film with Aaron Taylor Johnson. He also was very good in John Carter. For those of you who have not seen John Carter, go out and find a way, if it's on Netflix, which I don't know if it's on Netflix here in Canada, but it might be in the States. If not, you can go rent the DVD or find a digital download on iTunes or whatever the case may be, but watch that movie. It's a mesmerizing story. Like, it's just such an entertaining film. And the problem with that is it was marketed horribly. It went from being John Carter of Mars, or Edgar Rice Burroughs' John Carter of Mars, The Princess of Mars. Very scientific title. So they decided to cut that down, and it was just going to be John Carter of Mars, The Princess of Mars. Well, then they did a stupid poll. And they said, well, you know what? Boys out there, like teenage boys, are probably not going to want to go and see a movie that has the name Princess in the title. So they got rid of Princess of Mars and just called it John Carter of Mars. Well, and then the trusty brain trust out there went and did another poll. And this time they discovered that, oh, well, it appears as though women don't like Mars or anything like that in the titles of their film. They're less likely to go and see those. So we're going to take that out of the title as well. So we're going to have this grand space opera that inspired the likes of Flash Gordon and Star Wars, and we're going to call it John Carter. And you wonder why they bombed at the box office? I mean, I don't know if it bombed, but I know it lost money. I think it lost it would be a bomb. It lost about $80 million, considering it cost about $250 to $300 million when P&A go into account. The movie made, I'd have to look it up. I don't know if it even made $200 million. So I mean, right there, it was a bomb, but it was not because of him. The movie is fantastic. The special effects are amazing. His chemistry with all of his co-stars, especially Lynn Collins and even Willem Dafoe, who played the Tarkus, who was the 8-foot tall, 6-armed alien creature, the green alien creature, the leader of that group. But it's a fun film. It's a great, entertaining joyride, and he was the lead in that movie, and it was too bad that it did poorly. But I mean, you look at him in a movie like Lone Survivor. That was a fantastic movie. It looks as though he's potentially set to star in the remake of The Raid. Say what you will about the need of this remake. I don't think that it needs to be done, but I'm still kind of excited for it because I really liked the first one. And if the Raid remake is another way for us to kind of get another Raid movie, then I'm all for it. Especially if it's a North American remake with the cast they've started to get lined up. Taylor Kitsch, Frank Grillo is involved in this movie as well. The one caveat with this, though, is Taylor Kitsch may not be able to do it because he's currently being courted for season 2 of True Detective. Now, a lot of people have said, well, those filming dates will overlap. But that's not necessarily the case. True Detective is aiming to start filming and have their filming completed by early 2015. I think their planned date is either January or February to have it finished. And then the Raid remake would start filming in around February, March. I think March would be the absolute latest that they would want to start filming because they want it for summer 2016. So whether or not they can actually get that to work out remains to be seen. I do think that the dates could work out, and I think that they could arrange filming on True Detective. If he does have a film coming out, they could arrange it so that all of his scenes are taken care of before, let's say, the last 3 weeks of filming. And then the last 3 weeks of filming, he may have to come back for a reshoot one day, but he can go off and start doing the Raid. The movie's to be directed by Patrick Hughes, who's currently promoting Expendables 3, which is his latest directorial effort. And from everything I've been hearing, it's mixed, but I've been hearing it's the most fun out of all the three. It takes itself a little bit more seriously than number 2 did, but it is more fun. And that's, I think, what we all want from this property. I think that's what we all expected for the Expendables to be, not the first one, where it was just so down and so serious. And then the second one going way too over the top, but still being entertaining and still enjoyable, because that's what we want these movies to be. We're not looking for Oscar bait. You know, we're looking for shoot-'em-ups. We're looking for catchy one-liners and all this kind of stuff. So there is still no release date specified for the Raid remake. It just is in production. They're hopefully going to start shooting in the beginning of 2015, which means if it's not a CG heavy film, which I don't think it will be, they could potentially have it on track for a fall or winter 2015, but most likely going to be spring, summer 2016. But when we get more information about this topic, I'll definitely update you guys on here. And the final topic that we have to talk about today is an update on a property that has been in production for a long time. The property I'm talking about is The Legend of Conan. And so The Legend of Conan would be the supposed final installment in the Conan saga. The original Conan saga started by John Milius back in the 80s. And I couldn't be happier about this because, first off, it said to potentially erase Conan the Destroyer, which is great. You go from Conan the Barbarian, which is an R-rated film, a great just action film with Arnold in the lead, just pure fun and adrenaline, and then you go to Conan the Destroyer. PG. They went from R to PG because they thought that a barbarian who slaughters people but is noble is good for kids. And so they made it PG, and I always thought that was one of the dumbest decisions. It was a terrible film. And we've been waiting because at the end, they did tease Conan sitting in his throne like this with his giant beard as the disheveled king. And that's what we've wanted. Now, the rumored title for this film is also King Conan, but I think The Legend of Conan is the official title. Arnold would be reprising his role. It's still right now, according to the producer, they have a script that they're almost done. They're just putting the last few lines on the script, and then it's going to be going to the studio after Labor Day in September, so probably mid-September they're going to have a meeting. If everything goes as planned and the studio likes the script, the studio, by the way, is Universal. If they like the script and they like the idea, then filming could potentially start as early as spring of 2015. Which means we would have it in summer or fall of 2016, which is very exciting because that means that we're actually getting some traction on this property. But this happens all the time. It's been happening for years on Ghostbusters 3. Oh yeah, we got a script and we're hopefully going to start shooting next year. And then it falls apart. And the reason I think that this could potentially fall apart is because Arnold hasn't been the star everyone hoped he would be after returning to acting. I mean, let's go through his last few films outside of the Expendables movies, because those aren't his films. So his first return was The Last Stand. It had a production budget of $45 million. That's excluding P&A, which is publishing and advertising, like print and advertising. Cost $45 million to make outside of the advertising. It made worldwide $48 million. So it lost money. They lost money on that film. Escape Plan was the opposite side of that. It was a budget of about $50 million, excluding P&A, but it made worldwide $137 million. So that movie made a little bit of money. Then we got Sabotage. Sabotage's budget was $35 million, excluding P&A. Worldwide, it made half that. It made $17 million worldwide. So a studio looking at Arnold and saying, you are unfortunately no longer a viable investment. Studios are most likely now going to look at him and say, we're not willing to, we've tried several times with you, and we cannot get a hit. We cannot even get a movie to really make enough of its money back, with the exception of Escape Plan. But I think that was more because of Stallone and him being so in the spotlight recently with, after Rocky and Rambo, coming out with all these other films. And he's got that other film coming out. It's very reminiscent of Crash, which looks just phenomenal. He plays like a journalist in the movie, and that just looks incredible. But there's no likely release date set for this film because I don't see it actually happening. I want it to happen. Don't get me wrong. I want this to happen. I would love for John Milius to come in and be a producer on the film. I don't think he's going to direct it, but having Arnold return to the role that basically made him a star, this and Terminator were the movies that made him a star. And returning to that role, first off, next year he's got Terminator Genesis coming out. They're almost done filming it right now, where he returns to the role of the Terminator. So doing a 1-2 punch of Terminator then Conan, that could reinvigorate his career. But I think that's the last shot that he has. But it's going to take some time whether or not we're going to be able to know if this is actually plausible. But if we get more information about this topic, I'll definitely update you guys on here. Well, that'll do it for us here on Coming Soon Movie News with Niklsun. Thank you so much for watching. You guys have been a great audience. Don't forget to click the subscribe button. You can get updates whenever we post a new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at Niklsun, Niklsun, for all of your movie updates. And you can also find us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/Movie News with Niklsun. And until next time, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.